Welcome to Work From Your Happy Place, the podcast that equips you with the tools, know-how, and motivation to live your dreams and find your happy place. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter for a recap of the week's guests and a preview of what's in store. To sign up, simply text the word Happy Place with no space to 33444. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the host of Work From Your Happy Place, Belinda Ellsworth.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Work From Your Happy Place. I'm your host, Belinda, and this is our artist edition of the show. I have a very special guest in store for you today. LaVigne is with me. Aaron grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, where his love of music started since before he could speak. The Beatles, the Beach Boys, and Motown Artists taught him the language of music while inspiring him to sing, pick up multiple instruments, and write songs. Aaron made New York City his base after graduating with a BFA in musical theater from Northern Kentucky University, where he has performed on Broadway, Off-Broadway, Broadway Tours with Symphonies and Lower East Side rock clubs, on the high seas, and in concert halls across multiple continents. He recorded and released 2 original studio albums in Brooklyn and Cincinnati. Portraying Jesus in the 50th anniversary tour of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Jesus Christ Superstar is a true honor. It is my pleasure to welcome Aaron to our show today.
It is my pleasure to be on this show, Belinda. How are you?
I'm just excited to dive in here. So let's just start. Let's fill in some of the gaps of this bio. And I just want to hear about some of those earlier days and then what really got you interested in musical theater. And then we'll just kind of go from there and how you made your way out to New York.
Sure. Early days, I grew up playing drums. My dad was a drummer, so we played drums. My brother and I, that's what we did. And I had a bit of a voice and I would sing songs. I'd sing the Beach Boys and the Beatles. And we had an old California Raisins record that I learned those songs. I mean, literally when I was a little kid. And then I was in punk rock bands in high school, and I took an acting class when I was a senior in high school with some of my friends. And my teacher, Connie Sejo from LaSalle High School in Cincinnati, she cast me as the lead in the show, and it turns out I was good enough to be doing that, and at least in high school. And I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of new friends. I felt very connected to it. Just the idea of storytelling and kind of just creating your own version of that was fun. It was a lot of fun. And she was like, you could do this. And I was like, oh yeah. So then I did a year in school. I did a year in college. Undeclared, and I just decided that year, the year that I was undeclared, I was like, well, I'm going to go try and get in a BFA program somewhere and get a degree and see how it goes. That's kind of how it all started for me.
All right. Wow. That's pretty amazing. Like the first show you were a senior in high school. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I did a play when I was 18 or not 18, 8th grade. I did a play, I guess, when I was in 8th grade, but I didn't really like enjoy it the way that I did until I was like, a young adult, until I was 18, Yeah, it was cool.
All right. So you get your BFA, and then like you just decide to go to New York straight away, or what happened?
Well, it's a process in college. I mean, it's all about, I didn't know anything about theater or acting, or I didn't know anything. So I was literally just a sponge. I was just, learning from people. I had a couple of mentors in college that I would just ask all the questions. I would just watch them. It'd be in their classes, and I would just soak everything in. I just didn't know a whole heck of a lot about the process. There's a definite process. I didn't know some of the basic theater terms, like just being, parts of the stage, places to be on the stage, the wings, what things are called. So I had to learn all of this stuff basically in college. And my teachers were really patient with me, to their credit. And it was a good environment for me to kind of just have to just do it. Mm-hmm. That was it. I just went all in on it. It was like, okay, here we go. I'm going to learn all this stuff really quickly and catch up to the rest of these people. So most of my life and my career has been a game of catch up for the most part, which has been kind of a fun underdog story, but it's also like, man, I wish I would have done this when I was in high school or when I was in grade school. I'd be way ahead of the game right now. But yeah, so yeah, I guess, I was in college, and I I did a year of summer stock in North Carolina at a place called the Lost Colony. And Terrence Mann was the director, and we had this Dave Clemens was this, Broadway casting director that was doing the casting, and Rachel Hoffman, and, from Telsey Casting, and big casting company in New York City. And they were doing this, this summer stock beach gig with 80 college kids who were, between 18 and 22 years old, having the summer of their lives, living on this island, like doing this show and just living in these bungalows, literally in the woods on the water of this beach in the middle of like this island and off the coast of North Carolina. So it's kind of a life-changing situation. I got to work with this just incredible amount of talent. And I made a lot of lifelong friends and colleagues doing that show. I did 2 summers there. And it really, really changed me. And it gave me the confidence to kind of think like, well, maybe I could go to New York, because a lot of these people were going to New York. And the production team was from New York. And, they were confident enough to hire me and put me in these roles and have this share this amazing gift that they had with me. And I was like, oh, wow, I think this is where I'm heading. So I got done with that. And I thought, yeah, I think New York is where I need to be after all of this goes down. So that's what I did. I moved to New York, and it's all history from there.
Wow, that's great. So what was your first show when you got to New York that you were in?
Let's see. I got a couple offers from cruise ships right away, and I turned them down because I was trying to be like a legit actor. I was like, I'm going to, just this kid who wanted to work for pennies and be whatever, a legitimate actor. I got cast in a show called The Civil War, Frank Wildhorn's The Civil War. And it was in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And it was like a 4-month contract. And Dan Cooney at the Encore Theater up in your neck of the woods, that's where I met Dan. So that's my whole connection with the Encore and with Michigan up there. So it was a lot of guys like him, a lot of like Broadway veterans, people from the original cast of the show. They were remounting this version. And we spent a summer just kind of learning and growing and performing every night, and just, getting really acclimated with what it means to be a professional, stage performer. And then while I was doing that, I booked the national tour of Rent, the show Rent.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I literally went from that job into Rent for about, maybe a year and a half after that. And again, doing Rent, you meet a lot of amazing people. Our cast was so talented. The creative team, the story, the show is legendary. Obviously, it changed theater. And I just kind of find myself in these places where I just every now and then, if I'm, my physical being, my spiritual being, if I'm right for a show, that I get plucked up and I get to go do things like that. And that's kind of been my career with the theater stuff. It's been charmed, I would say, for the most part. But there's a lot of times that I'm not right for things because I can't dance. I never had any formal dance training. As a young person who's trying to be an artist, create roles and everything like that, it's definitely a grind. It's been a pretty fun grind for the most part.
Great. Let's talk about, what would you say is a standout greatest accomplishment?
Ooh, greatest accomplishment. Oh my gosh. Like as far as theater stuff goes. I was my first night I ever was on a Broadway stage, someone in the cast, I joined the cast, and they said, one of the guys pulled me aside. He was one of the dance captains. He said, "Hey man, this is your Broadway debut, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, there was a big catwalk in one of the scenes that it's way high. It's like 40 feet up in the air, and you're walking across this catwalk, and you can see the stage, you can see the audience. And he goes, just take a moment on that catwalk when you walk across there, just look out and just sit and just realize what this moment is for you and soak it in, to really take it and own that moment. And I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even think about because when you're doing the show, you're trying to hit your marks. You're trying to make sure your timing's good. There's 1,000 costume changes and 1,000 costumers running around backstage who are changing you. You have to do, the whole thing is tracked so specifically. It's so quick. And that one brief moment, I kind of had a moment to just like be like, wow. And I remember that. I would say that's my coolest accomplishment. Not so much that like I landed an amazing role or I made this much money or whatever, or any kind of like, some kind
Right.
of,
But that feeling of just like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. And that's where the art meets the career portion of it. You're like, wow, this is a cool accomplishment that even I can appreciate right now in this moment.
One of your greatest challenges. What's an experience that you went through and how you worked through it?
I think that in general, as a stage actor, as a performer, there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows. There's definitely there's this thing where you have to kind of you can separate the business from the personal, but so much of the business is based on what you're bringing from your own personal experience, from your personality to the role, to a company, that it gets intertwined. And so when the things are great, things are really great. And when things are bad, if you're not working or if, something's happened to you, like an injury, injuries are always my biggest challenge. I've had a few gnarly injuries over the years, where you literally can't work, and it's awful. You're completely helpless. You're spending your time just rehabbing your body and rehabbing your mind. It's half the battle is your mind, just keeping a strong mind and a strong sense of who you are, and to stay grounded in that moment. Because if you can get through that moment, then all the highs, that's what they are. They are the highs, and you can really enjoy those for what they are. And if you can get through the lows, yeah, I would say injuries, yeah, are definitely hard.
Absolutely. I think athletes go through very similar situations. It isn't just the physical injury, it's the whole mental aspect of it as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of staying in the game in your head.
Yeah, you're missing time. You're missing, we want to be, it's kind of like, it sounds crazy, but we just went through COVID. I was on tour with Jesus Christ Superstar, and we've been laid off for a year and a half almost. And it's not an injury per se to my physical body, although I did have some injuries I was battling through with the show and everything else. But the fact that like you don't have any control over it, like literally was just taken. The whole industry went away; it vanished, and they're like, "Oh, so your entire livelihood, in a way, it's your sense of purpose. It's a way to pay your bills. I mean, there's a lot of things that mental game." Especially during COVID, that was a major injury to the world. We all have our own stories. Yep. I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate in my situation. I didn't have any, knock on wood, I had a very good situation to come to, but if you look at it like that, it's like an injury. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. COVID was very, very difficult. And everyone does have their own story, but for people that performed in front of other people, and that encompassed a lot of people, but when you have an audience and then you suddenly don't have one, and that is your, primary way of, like you said, it isn't even just making an income. It's like a purpose. It's part of your identities wrapped up in that. And then suddenly it's kind of like put on hold, and it's very difficult.
Yeah. It was difficult for the theater business and the events world and all kinds of stuff, because we all thought it was only going to be a few months too. We thought, oh, okay, we'll be back in a few months. This will be, if nothing else, it's a good time to rest our minds, rest our body, because we're doing 8 shows a week, without hardly any breaks. And then once the unknown became even more unknown, then we were like, well, we have to really start planning. I have to start planning my life, because I don't even know if this show's going to come back. We have no idea if my livelihood's coming back. I'm going to have to figure out a different way to live my life. All of us are potentially going to have to do that. So, I wasn't living in fear, but it was more so just the fragility of our career, how necessary we are and how unnecessary we are at the same time. It's like, wow, what a hard thing to have to look in the mirror and recognize that, because, we all go to concerts. We all feel good because we like music, or we like movies, or these are the things we feel good about because we connect to them as human beings. And ultimately that's what we want to do is find purpose, find connection. And when you're told your connection is the problem with the world right now, you connecting physically with someone is a problem. If you sit back and have the time to think about it and kind of dissect it the way that I did, I was like, yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing that a lot of people are going through, and it becomes like a traumatic event,
So let's talk about Jesus Christ Superstar. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to see it.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. You were incredible in that show.
Thank
and
you.
we saw it in February, which when we look back on it now, that was just a month before, everything kind of got shut down. But let's talk about getting that role. And then let's talk about when you're going. So the tour is going to start up again. So let's talk about that too.
Yeah. First of all, the tour is starting up. I don't know if it's been officially announced, but I know they're selling tickets. It's happening in the fall, and we're rounding out our rehearsals and figuring things out now. Our company's working really hard. It's been hard on these production companies too. Think of it, they could have gone under. I mean, I work for a really great company, who care about the show, and they care about their performers and their actors, and they've been stellar with the communication, and it's very obvious that we all care about each other. So it's we're pretty stoked to be getting this thing back up and going, and there will definitely be more details soon about that coming up. But yeah, the show itself started in London. Well, obviously, as a concept album, it's the 50th. This is the 50th anniversary tour. They did a production of this version, a revival in 2017, in London's Regent's Park, which it's a Shakespeare company, and it's a really intense story version of the story. Jesus plays a musician, so Jesus is literally a musician. His gospel is the music. The disciples are the fan base. His word is the way of the Lord, whatever you want to call it. And so it's a celebration of this music, of the 50th anniversary of this concept album, this Andrew Lloyd Webber, Tim Rice collaboration when they were, in their early 20s, and wrote this amazing, just like funky, swingy, grooving, acid rock, ass kicking kind of score, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they had a casting search for the cast in America for the North American tour. The show won the Olivier, which is the Tony, basically the equivalent of the Tonys, for the best revival that year. So, we had heard about it here, and my agent had called, and I was actually in where I am now. I'm in Cincinnati. I have a home here that I spent a few years renovating. So I was literally building a house here, and I was doing guest artist gigs. I was flying to like Hawaii or the Caribbean or to Europe and doing shows and concerts and working on cruise ships for a few weeks at a time and making enough money to come back and work on this house. And in the midst of that, I was also dealing with my agent who was dealing with casting, and they were saying, hey, have them send in for this show, and spent a few months doing that. It was 3 or 4 months doing that. And then I finally, went up to New York and met all the creatives and the production staff there, and had a good situation with them. And then they sent me to London for a week, and I was dealing with our director, Tim Sheeter, and our music supervisor, Tom Deering, who are both brilliant people, who are the leaders of this show. And with Andrew Lloyd Webber's people working on my voice, working on the style. There's a lot of, it's a big show. It's a big role. It's iconic, man. And they want to check all the boxes. And I just did the best I could. That's literally what I did, was try to be cool, make sure I nail the notes, and just give a really honest performance and be an honest person. I mean, literally, that's all you can really do. They're looking at so many people, and they had been looking for almost a year at that point.
Wow.
And it was about I think I was 5 or 6 months into the casting process. It was the longest thing that I've ever had to work for sure. And there's a lot of decisions that go into that. And there's a lot of, like I said, check marks that they had to check. And I was lucky enough and I'm honored to even have the job, to be honest with you. So it's, and then once we got going, it was like, the show is so physical. It's so fast. It's so, raw. The storytelling of it happens quickly. It's a 90-minute version, and we're doing 8 shows a week, and you're on the road, and we quickly became a popular tour, and for good reason. It's a good production, and it's a great cast, and obviously the score is amazing. So it's a real blessing. I mean, especially coming out of COVID, we're all we're on these group threads, these chat threads with our cast, and people have their own anxieties about how's this going to happen, how are we going to live like this, how's this, but at the same time, we're all just really excited to come back. So like we want this to happen. It's such a different world. The show's going to change. Like my point of view, I mean, it'll be the same show, but like it's going to be a little different. It's just going to we can't talk about these themes of life and love and friendship and betrayal and death and whatever else without acknowledging the elephant in the room, which has been this virus, which we've all have these crazy personal experiences with too. So I'm just excited to get back in the room with these people, because I don't know what version that's going to be, but I do know for a fact that Drew McConey, who's our choreographer, and Tim Sheeter, who's our director, and Tom, who's our music supervisor, they're going to be talking about this and saying, we have to acknowledge the world that we live in. That's the only way to tell the story in general. It's a very human story. And right now we're all sharing a similar human experience. Right.
Well, it is so good. So I hope that people will get a chance to get out and see it. And I'm sure when you do go through that, things are more meaningful, and things will definitely take on a completely different meaning. Like you said, there's just everybody's been touched with someone they've lost in their life during this, or really difficult challenges. So for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about kind of some ways in which you sort of engage with your fan base. That's always a fun question.
That is a fun question, and I probably have a really lame answer for you, because I'm usually pretty good about it. For years, I think recently I have not been so good about it. I think I've taken a step back on social media and just been like, I'm just going to kind of be me after this whole thing. And not that I was ever a fake version of myself. I've always been me. I've always been lucky enough to kind of lead that way and still have a career and be an artist and stuff. I think the most meaningful ways, there's 2 things. Live performance is one, because even if it's just me, if it's me in front of 5,000 people or whatever in a big stage or a concert hall or something, there's that. I might be playing a goofy guy who's, can't stand up straight, or I'm playing a rock star like I am in Jesus Christ Superstar, or it might just be me playing my own original kind of music, just me at a coffee shop somewhere on a beach, like literally with a microphone in front of me, just, playing for tips or something like that. And I've done all of it. And I really do try to approach things with the same sense of, hey, who's in front of me? What kind of a connection can we have? If we have a connection, if it's going to be a fun connection that night, and we're having a few drinks and a few laughs, then that's our connection. If it's a quiet listening audience and they want to hear some like more quiet singer-songwriter things, then I'll take it down and we'll have that connection too. And I think for that, it may not be the widest net, the large, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It may not be the biggest sense of connection, to a wide audience, but I would say that people that I've connected with, as far as fans and stuff go, like we've had personal experiences, and people write me all the time. People write me on my Instagram, like, hey, are you going to be on I play a lot on this island called Ocracoke Island when I'm not performing in theater shows and stuff like that. And every year people are like, you going to be on Ocracoke this year? Man, I met you in 2011 and you did this song for my wife, and man, it just meant so much to me. Hopefully you're there. Good. Hope you're doing well, Or, someone will write me from Jesus Christ Superstar, and they'll have a really, really personal, intimate thing they'll share with me that, based on the show or maybe my performance that touched them or something like that, that they are willing to open up and share. And honestly, like, it just means a lot that people are even willing to do that. And it really does mean that even in a bigger sense of connection, which that is, it's not a one-on-one connection, that at least I'm trying to tell this story in the proper way that we can all understand and we can all share as a group. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the beauty of live performance. You just can't replicate that anywhere else. And, I'm very fortunate that, honestly, like I'm thinking about it right now, like you step back and you think about it, how freaking cool is it that like I get to do this and people pay me to do it? So it's unbelievable. It's amazing.
I think as an observer and knowing you the little bit that I do, but I've met you several times now.
Of course, yeah.
I think you're very genuine. I think people, that comes across whether you're in a big, huge theater or you're in a very intimate stage. You're very genuine, and I think people feel that. And so then there's a trust factor to that people do open up and tell you those stories. And you never get the feeling with you that you're like you said, that you're being fake. I mean, like your personality shines through what you do in every setting that you do it. So I think that's pretty awesome.
I'll take that as a comment because it's really the only way I know how to do it. There's no magic to it. It's just, if I do it any other way, then I feel like I'm just a poser. I don't want to feel like a poser. I want to be genuine, So.
Yeah. So let's talk about, this has always been kind of one of the tougher questions for artists as well, but how have you navigated through the business side of your artistic career? Like some people are very good at the artistic side but not as good as managing that, or they've relied on other people to do that successfully. Or how do you think you've navigated that sort of walk between the business aspect of it and the artistic side of it?
I would say that I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't know that I've been super successful at either. I think that there's a push and a pull, right? So let's just start with, I play music and I write songs and I have been played in several bands and released music and whatever. And I never went fully that direction to say, I'm going all in on this 1,000%. I'm just going to be this person until I get a record deal and do whatever. Like I never really pushed for that. And then as far as the acting and theater performance and stuff, yeah, I mean, I've worked my butt off to get to do these things, but I've never been just so driven to just do that. I do it. I have a decent work ethic. I show up. But then part of it, I just say, either you're going to take me on whatever journey that someone else wants to take me on, or you're not, or you're going to love me or you're not going to love me. Like I don't really know the answer to that. I think that, I mean, I've had lots of good advice over the years. I've had some bad advice. I have an agent. I've worked with agents and managers over the years who tend to do some of the more technical, nitty gritty stuff. It's good to kind of separate yourself from that. Because contract negotiations take a really long time. And sometimes you think your worth is something and someone else thinks your worth is something. And I really, really don't enjoy that side of the business at all. I don't like it at all. I mean, every time I get an offer, it's not something that I get stressed about, but it's something that I would rather not even deal with it, because my job is to show up and to be the person that they need me to be. And I don't want to be sitting here and micromanaging my own contract and stuff, but you kind of have to kind of do that, because you're the only one at the end of the day. You're the only one looking out for yourself. Even if your agent or whoever, your manager, is also looking out for you, they're not you. They don't know what you really need, what you really want, what you're really worth. They're on your side, obviously, but I think it's really important, and I honestly wish I was better. I wish I had someone helping me even more. I wish I had a publisher or someone who could really just kind of take the reins for that, and I could say, yeah, let's do this together. Let's collaborate, because I think a partnership for me in that aspect, and that's something that I'm much more open to and available now that I'm older, is I don't know. I'm at the point now where I'm like, I don't know anything. I know what I know, and I think my instincts are good, but I am not an expert. If someone has something to offer me, I'm going to listen to that advice. I'm going to listen to every word of it. And if, or a collaboration, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to take it seriously and see what it's all about. And I'm even more open and even more available than I've ever been in my life. And it's something I've worked really hard to be that way. And I think it's almost exciting. I mean, even at my stage of my life and my career now, I think that there's so much opportunity that brings, and the fact that I'm really embracing it now, I don't know, I feel good about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think there's a time in your life where, too, there's wisdom there, and there's also a level of confidence that makes you more relaxed with some of those decisions in life happening. You know you're going to land on your feet no matter what, so you don't stress about some of the little things that stressed you out when you're in your 20s.
I know. And we're all, and back then there was so much like I had so much edge, and like, I was such like a, like I was like this like blue collar kid, like just coming in, not that I was like out there trying to prove myself and be a cool guy, but I wanted to be relevant. I wanted to, I wanted my voice to be heard. So there's a little bit of an edge to me, and I probably have it a little bit now, but now I'm like, let's just be cool, and I'll make some cool art with you, and let's make things really good. Let's just do that.
So this is sort of our signature question of the show. What does working from your happy place mean to you?
Oof, working from your happy place. I think it means, here's what I think it means. I'm just rambling. I think it means it means you're in the flow. It means you are literally just doing your thing. You've aligned your elements, you've aligned your work ethic to have a flow. That means when you're in that flow state, you can say anything, you can write anything, and it might not be what you use or what's the best, but it's really not wrong. You're not in a wrong place. If you're in that place of creation or collaboration, or just sharing a moment with somebody else, whatever it might be, there's really no wrong answers there. So I think if you're working from your happy place, it means that you yourself are in a happy place to begin with, meaning that you are exploring, you've explored maybe some of the things that aren't so pretty about yourself, or, maybe things that might be a little ugly, and you say, you know what, I can forget those things, and I can work from a place that I feel good about the things that about most of me. And then things just happen, man. Things just fire. And it doesn't even matter what it is. I think, I think success comes out of that, because you're making relationships, you're creating things, you're landing good jobs, you're collaborating on amazing business endeavors or artistic endeavors, or sometimes you're just sharing a moment with somebody brand new, a moment that you may never forget. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's just being available to all that. I think that is the happy place. That's the flow state, quote unquote, people say,
Oh, that's great. So what advice would you give to a young artist just getting started right now that is wanting to make their way in this either theater world, music world, probably theater?
I would say define yourself, but if you're not defined, don't worry about it. I mean, in my opinion, like, I'm never going to stop growing. I'm never going to have all the answers. Like, you have to like humble yourself to a point where you truly say, I really don't have the answers. What does that mean? Don't be afraid to learn all of the time. Mm-hmm. Because if you learn all of the time, your mistakes are forgivable, because you're not coming from a place of absolute certainty or ego. It becomes a thing where you just keep growing from all of these things that are happening at the same time to you. It's a much more worldly approach. I know I'm kind of like rambling right now, but I would say, like, don't be afraid to not know who you are, and at the same time, try to figure out who you are.
Exactly.
Does it make sense? It makes no sense to say that, but it really just means just work hard and do your best, and be a good person. Just don't be a jerk. Start there. Everything will fall in line. Your performance will be better. I mean, obviously, do the work, do the training. Let's take the advice, do the voice lessons, get your agent, all the business side. I mean, I'm speaking from like the whole, a very different side right now. Like, that is, to me, is obvious that all of that work has to happen. That's
right.
That's the entire foundation. So get the training, learn the work ethic, all that. And then beyond that, don't let that be the only thing that guides you. You'll never be successful. Like, you have to have things that you enjoy. Mm-hmm. Do you like cooking? Do you like going, like horseback riding? I mean, do you like bike riding? Do you like gardening? Do you just Do you play music? Do you, do you play chess with your friends? I mean, whatever it might be, like anything that you enjoy, like do that. And that informs all of these other things much more than just being like, oh, I'm good because I know how to negotiate my own contract. Great. That's cool. That doesn't make you a good actor. It doesn't make you a good artist. Doesn't make you a good human. No one wants to work with you just because you become an expert on that. Who gives a shit, So
right.
Yeah.
I do think what you said though has been a topic of it's been a really recent topic of the way that people see it. I've always taught you need to remain a student. Like you always want to learn, you always want to grow. But the buzzword that has started to come up in the last probably 3 or 4 months is to be curious. Always remain curious.
Yeah.
And I like that. It's kind of like some people, and especially young people, need to have a curiosity about them to learn and to grow and to take from this one moment. Like that's what I try to impress upon, especially my daughter, is like, there's every moment, there's something that you can learn or take away from and enjoy that moment. Be present in that moment.
Yeah.
Of not like, oh, what am I wasting my time sitting here for? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And beyond that, like the next, like to piggyback on that, what you're saying, which makes perfect sense. Don't be afraid to find and laugh at the absurdity of the moment. Sometimes moments are so absurd. You're like, what are we doing? What is this world? Is this ridiculous that I'm stressing about this? Like, this really just happened. Let's acknowledge how crazy and weird this is and like have a laugh about it. Like find the fun. Don't be afraid to play. You know what I mean? Be eternally youthful. Like it informs so much. Don't be afraid to laugh at yourself or like make fun of yourself. Like it's okay. Like no one cares at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So new and exciting things you're working on right now. Obviously, it's going back on tour. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience and like where they can find you or where they can find a list of the cities you're going to be in?
Sure. Well, one thing that's new and exciting that I just saw for the first time, because I just got back from Michigan doing concerts at the Encore, was that I have guys working and building a deck in my backyard right now, which is totally cool and totally exciting. That's a personal victory right there. The show. The show right now, I just did a bunch of concerts in New York and in Michigan, and now it becomes get in shape. I'm excited to like get my mind focused, get back into rehearsals, get back in the show. You can go to I think it's JesusChristSuperstar.com. Just Google it, like Jesus Christ Superstar Tour or whatever. The website, the Andrew Lloyd website, Andrew Lloyd Webber website comes up. Andrew Lloyd website. How about that?
It's a good one.
Hey, but I think they're putting dates up on there. I actually don't know. I wish I had more information on that, but I'm pretty sure there's dates there. Check your local theater. We play a lot. We're doing the North American tour. I know we're playing a ton of cities. We start out west in Portland, Oregon, and we make our way down the coast for a couple months, and then we head back east in the winter. I know that. Just Google it, honestly. If you want to connect with me, go to my Instagram. That's really the only way I do anything. It's Aaron LaVigne, AARON LAVIGNE, sounds like Avril Lavigne. And I post all my updates for music, for the show, me just being a dork, whatever, just live my life. A lot of backstage shenanigans if you're a fan of the show or if you're a fan of theater in general and stuff. Like we have a lot of fun. So yeah, I would say check me out on Instagram. That's really the only place I put anything.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It was so good to see you too recently. It was amazing.
I know, it was fun. The show was fantastic, and they do such a good job at the Encore. And it's always a pleasure when we get to have you as a guest. So that's so fun. And
it was great. Whatever. It was great hanging out with you and stuff too, and going on the boat and everything else. It was so fun.
Good. Well, thanks so much for being so generous with our guest. And to all of our guests out there, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe or to leave a review. But the best form of compliment that you can give us is to share it with a friend. So thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Work From Your Happy Place.
Thanks for joining us at Work From Your Happy Place. If you like what you hear, please share it with your friends and be sure to rate and review us on iTunes or Stitcher. For a free gift on finding your own happy place, please visit workfromyourhappyplace.com and click on the free audio button. Thanks again for listening.